Welcome to a sunny and warm North Yorkshire. Thank you for tuning in. Now, if you saw my previous video, I mentioned that I wanted to start and scout this lovely little characterful beck which winds through this ancient woodland. And today just seemed like a really nice opportunity to make a start. It's very sunny, not my preferred conditions for woodland photography, but certainly a nice, warm, relaxed afternoon to make a start exploring and working, well, trying to find some compositions and work on some ideas so I can get a feel for the type of images that I want to make that fit within this wider project. So I think what I'm going to do is head to the top end, because that's Meg barking in the background, she's already enjoying the stream as usual. So we're going to go to the top end, because having walked past there previously, it seemed quite open. There seemed to be lots of potential there with some lovely boulders and little cascades. So we'll have a little wander around there, and fingers crossed we'll find some nice compositions, work through some ideas, talk through them, and yeah, just enjoy this beautiful afternoon. So let's see what we can find. So we've almost reached where I'd like to make a start. We have bypassed a lot of interesting sections of the beck already, but that's for good reason, because just like when I'm photographing the oak trees, I like to have some sort of structure and discipline to my approach. And I think it'd be a mistake to try and cover too much ground too quickly, because then it kind of gets a bit confusing and you forget where certain parts are. Whereas if today I can concentrate further upstream, one section there, on a subsequent day I can move downstream, concentrate on a section there, and so on. And over a period of time you build up a very intimate knowledge, and when you come back and the conditions are particularly good, you know exactly where you want to go, the strongest compositions you'd like to target, and crucially, how to get there. That's the plan, anyway. But this is photography and things very rarely go to plan, but the process is certainly enjoyable, and the value immeasurable. Now I'm going to jump over this, not jump, gingerly climb over this fence, but even though I'm going to climbing over a fence, I will still be in the same, I'm still allowed over here, it's still part of the owner's land. Where's Meg? Come on, Meg, you can get over here. Good girl. Good girl. Sometimes I wish I had 4 legs like Meg. Whoa. This is just a wonderful, intimate scene. And what's particularly nice as well is some ferns, which are died back at the minute, but obviously they're going to grow as spring develops, and they're going to make a really nice feature on a damp, foggy morning. Lovely, lovely little backdrop there. Fantastic hidden little gem. Wonderful. It's probably quite unusual for you to see me using a polarizing filter, but it is essential here, just to cut through some of that surface glare. And the water here has kind of got a rich brown colour to it because of the peat on the moors, so that gives it that kind of rich golden colour sometimes, particularly when the light hits it. So I just want to cut through the glare, bring some of that colour through. I don't think it's going to come through particularly strongly, but just a hint of that would be quite nice. But the scene that you can see in front of me here, I don't yet know if these intimate shots of cascades are going to fit within my project, but I want to make the image anyway, and then I can decide later. But what we've got is this lovely lump of golden sandstone with some moss in it. That's providing a nice sort of solid central component to the image. And we've got these little gentle cascades, but what I quite like about these little becks and the streams that wind their way around these rock gardens and turning corners as they go through the valley is that it gives an opportunity to make images with intrigue. You know, intrigue and mystery is something that I like in woodland images. But because of the way that this stream just appears from behind boulders, it kind of leaves you with that thought, where does the stream go? What lies beyond? So I'd quite like to capture that feeling in some of the images that I make here. And it's quite a nice juxtaposition as well between those kind of gentle, relaxing falls. You know, we'll get some of that softness and quietness by slowing the shutter speed down a little bit. just enough so that we can still maintain some texture and detail. And that just makes a lovely contrast against the heavy weight of those big solid boulders. So I'm just going to frame up a 5x4 here, I think, bringing in a nice solid edge to the bottom of just that foaming water. We've got the golden lump of sandstone more or less in the middle, and then we've got the lip of the fall just disappearing behind this huge boulder that sits on the right hand side. Intimate image, quite nice, it's a nice little start, but I think this particular area here I'd like to make 1 or 2 more images. I've not moved from where I was. I've just repositioned my tripod to make an image of this small waterfall here. I think the last image works absolutely fine in the conditions that we presented with today, but I think in an ideal world, I'd really like to see some fog for this image and a little bit later in the spring season. And the reason for that is because we're bringing in a little bit more of the background. So we've got a nice birch tree in the background there, which overhangs the beck. And we're just bringing in the lip of the waterfall, which just helps to reveal some of those background elements. And I think the atmosphere that would be created and that feeling of depth that would be created by having that fog would really help to lift this image. We've also got some ferns and grasses down here, so it'd be nice to see them in full bloom. So the largest portion of the image would be taken up by the waterfall, the wet rocks, the lovely texture of the base of this oak tree, some of the roots that come off that. But just having that little slither over the lip of the waterfall and a little hint of some of the context of the background I think would work quite well. Just like the last image, I've framed a 5x4. Nice practice in composition, see what you think of that. But for now, I think I'm done with this little spot for now, I think. I'm just going to head just a tiny bit further downstream to a very interesting looking area of lots of big boulders, and hopefully I can make something work there. Go. I'm pretty sure it's behind this boulder that we want to be, Meg. Can we get down that way? Show me the way. Wee. Oh, Meg, this looks like Krypton factor. Ugh. I think part of scouting is also figuring out the safest way to get to spots, rather than silly ways like this. We're there, we're done. I quite often receive comments from people when they see some photographic potential within my video B-roll. But what you might not realise is that a lot of my video B-roll is part of the scouting process. It's not just an accidental piece of footage to look nice. It's actually purposeful as a means of almost documenting areas that I'd like to return to. So I think this view here was a piece of B-roll in my last video. And that's what prompted me to return today to try and make some photographs. But in the process of making my way here, I spotted a view just round the corner of this boulder, which I thought looked really quite interesting. So we're going to have a closer look at that now. positioning is a little bit awkward and I'm in ankle breaking territory again. But the composition that I've got lined up, I really quite like it. It's a little bit different, so I'll try to articulate what I'm thinking the best that I can. So like I've said before, one of the dominant features that I'm quite fond of in this location is the big boulders, and the way that they've tumbled down the hillside here and found their resting place I find quite attractive. And I like the fact that it's obscured the view of the valley, so it comes back to that element of intrigue of this small beck just disappearing behind these boulders, and that juxtaposition as well of the fairly gentle beck against the big bold weight of these huge boulders. But another feature which I quite like, which isn't so obvious, which I think adds to the element of depth and small details in the scene which encourage the eye to travel around the image, is that down here we have a small group of rocks. In the darkness, under the shelter of the big boulder there, we have a small group of rocks. Yet again, we have a small group of rocks under the lip of this huge boulder here. Beyond the beck, more rocks, and another grouping further back. And I think I just like that little arrangement. I don't know what it is, I just like that little arrangement. And I think the way that they've settled, kind of almost holding the weight of these big boulders, it's just a nice feature. So I started off by being drawn to the beck itself, and then very, very slowly started to include more and more of the boulders over on the left-hand side. Yet again, I'd like to photograph it later in the season on a foggy morning. So some of the ferns and mosses are looking nice and rich. Get some nice glossy leaves on the holly tree in the background. We've got another holly tree further back. There's a tree just sat against that, right in the far distance. On a foggy morning, that feeling of atmosphere, depth, mood, it's going to sit very, very nicely with this scene, I think. So that's what I'll be aiming for. Exactly like the last two images, it's a vertical 5x4. And yeah, I quite like it. I'd be interested to see what you think. See if, view it as a composition and, see if you can see the potential that I see. It's a little bit different. It brings in the elements that I like. So I look forward to returning to this scene and documenting it as the year progresses. And fingers crossed, what I'm visualizing and what I want to achieve comes to fruition. But yeah, the sun's starting to set now, so we're probably about done. Right, that is us done after another very enjoyable and worthwhile exploration of this fantastic location. I hope you've enjoyed it. A quick thank you to those that have ordered a box set by the time you've watched this, and it's probably already been shipped. I've had some great feedback from those that have received theirs already, so thank you very much for that. There's still some left, so please take a look, because as always your support is massively appreciated. But thank you very much for watching this episode, and yeah, hope to see you again very soon. Meg, come on. Good girl.